Okay, are we live? Yes, it seems that we are. Okay, just a minute to let everybody else connect. Okay, welcome, and good evening. Welcome to Millennium 7 Star, the channel that helps you make sense of military history and military technology. And welcome to this live stream that this time is, let's say, a bit less experimental than it used to be. So as you can see, there's some bit more equipment, including this thing here just in front of my face, but I suppose is necessary. So hello. So in this live stream, the plan for this live stream is to do some Q&A, because recently I received through the forms that you normally find in the description of my videos, I received quite a number of questions that I never answered, so maybe it's a good time to address them. After that, we will have some Q&A from the chat. And so before starting, however, I have a couple of remarks to do. The first one is that we have a Discord server. I've been asked plenty of times to make a Discord server where people could actually join, the community could join and have a chat about the subjects we always discuss, mostly aeronautics and most military stuff. And so I finally opened one. You can find the link with the invite in the description of this live stream and in the most recent videos description. So the other thing that I want to say is that we need to speak about the last video that I've published, the first of the series of the Sukhoi 57. It should be 4 videos, but there's a good possibility that it will become 5 videos, because there's really quite a lot to say and a lot of things that should be given for granted if you're speaking about Okay, 100 rupees support for Tamaki Kulkarni. Thank you very much. I don't know how much is in pounds, but thank you very much. I suppose it's a big number. And he's asking about the Amca and the TEDF. And yes, we will discuss this. Keep these questions for later, okay? For the second part of the live stream. I will try to address this as well, okay? Let me take note. Okay, as I was saying, we need to speak about the last video. So thank you very much, because it had quite a good success. So a lot of people watched it. So I'm really happy that you appreciated that. Nevertheless, I made 3 mistakes. The first is that when I was listing the years on the slider on the right at the beginning of the video, 89 comes before 88. Okay, I have no justification for that. Also, there is a point in which I'm talking about let's say the ancestors of the Sukhoi 57. I have mentioned this gentleman here. I know that a lot of you will love it, because, well, it looks cool. but it has pretty much nothing to do with our story. So apologies, it was a mistake, and I gave also wrong, made some confusion with the names and the numbers. Third element that I got wrong is the fact that I said that a regiment is pretty much the equivalent of a squadron. In the Russian Air Force, it's not true. A regiment is pretty much a wing. The Russian squadrons, squadron equivalents, have 10, 12 aircraft, depending on the type. And normally a regiment has 2 to 3, more often 3 squadrons. So apologies for these mistakes. It's stuff that sometimes goes because, there's never the time to... It's always a bit rushed. I mean, the documentaries are take quite a lot of time, and so yeah, sometimes I make mistakes. No excuse for that. Anyway, the last thing that I would like to address before starting answering the question is a comment that actually appeared always in the below the video about the Sukhoi 57. There are plenty like this. I've just taken an example. I won't say who did it, who left it, but I think it actually deserves commenting. So this gentleman says, ha 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 ha. The Sukhoi 57 could not even take out a 15C. It is a POS, and everyone, including the Russians, know that. Minimal stealth and way under power. It cannot supercruise because its engines are not powerful enough. Any new engines are years away. Russia does not have the capability to manufacture planes with the close tolerances required for a stealth plane. On top of everything else, Russia cannot afford to build them. Stop with these nonsense videos. So, if this is trolling, I suppose we can have a good laugh together and keep going along and keep going with our journey. If this is not trolling and the person genuinely believes what he has written, well, there's a number of factual mistakes. We will cover them during the videos. But behind that, there is this feeling of complacency, to not say anything worse, that some people have when we're talking about the Russians or the Chinese. It is hubris, okay? I am sure, 100% sure, that the United States and the European and the Western militaries in general are not underestimating the kind of capabilities that the Russians and the Chinese can deploy. And they know very well where, or at least where there could be, because obviously the information is not available to everyone, where could be the strong and the weak points. This kind of behavior is a bit childish, to be honest. It is as if it's probably the same attitude that you have supporting a sport team. But while supporting a sport team is also is basically fun, and it's no harm to anyone, not even to yourself, this kind of attitude towards international affairs hinders and jeopardize your capability of understanding what is going on and understanding what are really the problems. So I just wanted to say that. I normally don't reply to this kind of comments. Oh, thank you, Cheyenne. Thank you, Tamai. And I mean, keep the question, keep the super chats and the question, please, for the end. It's much practical for me to reply. So I'm saying it's no. I generally don't comment, but I'm a bit disappointed because for years there were this kind of let's say troll-like comments have been extremely rare on the channels. Now that the channel, suppose that the channel is becoming just a little bit more popular, they are unavoidable. Anyway, archive this starting session. Let's go and answer some of the questions that have been asked through the form, to the official request form to request comments. You find the link in the description of every video, so feel free to use it, okay? So B. Tidwells is asking, I understand that the importance of stealth today, as many nations strive to develop this technology for their next generation aircraft, it appears that new sensor technologies are rapidly growing in capabilities. Stealth, as we understand it today, possibly won't seem very stealthy in 10 years' time. Correct. Help us understand why these aircraft will still hold an advantage over non-stealthy platforms like the F-15EX if new sensor technologies have improved to the point where radar mitigation isn't the primary means of identifying an aircraft. 2. How will new technologies in electronic warfare, laser technology, and thermal heat reduction help aircraft like the F-22 remain difficult to track and locate? So as usual, this would require many videos to be addressed correctly, but it is correct in the sense that the whole world is working on countering stealth. There are the road to do that seems the use of passive radars that use, let's say, other radio frequency emitters like radios, TV, cell phones, towers, and these kind of things, or a combination of long wavelength radars like from the L band downwards, where achieving stealth is much more difficult, and adding and coupling this with system to guide the weapons, despite the fact that at these frequencies, these long wavelength and low frequencies, it's difficult to have a fix that is actually capable of pinpointing the position of the plane and guiding a weapon. There probably are going to be procedural systems like this that will help with this. Having said that, probably stealth will always remain an important part of the technologies available to gain an advantage on the battlefield, but will not be predominant in. For example, in land warfare, despite the fact that infrared is very much commonplace on the battlefield today, vehicles still use optic camouflage, still painted green, because it helps anyway. So it is useful anyway. So that's the reason why stealth will still be there. Will be one of the many factors. And the new technologies that help the F-22 remain difficult to track. The F-22 is probably poised to be retired. But yes, it will be. We are going to see the confrontation, the same between offense and defense, between armor and projectiles. In the sense there will be always someone and something that will be stronger, and the defense will always be better, and then offense will catch up, and so on. And this is the nature of the human conflict. Has never changed, and it probably will never change. Rotorbud says, have you given any thought to doing a video on the advancement of rotor wing aircraft in the last 10 years? I was an aircraft mechanic for 45 years. Congratulations, definitely. Sort of could be one of my definitions of paradise. And the pace of change in the industry seems to be exponential. Yeah, maybe it's not exponential, but it's definitely quite good. And yes, it's true. I've never covered helicopters on the channel, but there are some interesting points that could be good material for videos. It could be interesting to see. So, yes, at some point we will cover this. Ahid Munawar from Pakistan says some very good thing about me and my channel, which I am not repeating. And he's saying, I enjoyed your video on Tejas and plan that when JF-17 Block 3 will come, as they say in the last half of 2020, I will request you to do a video on it. And today your video came. Thank you for that. My question, even with all the fancy avionics, data links, and state-of-the-art situational awareness, will the F-35 be able to hold its own within visual range against, say, Su-35 or F-16 or J-10? Let's assume that they have exceptional pilots. Do you think the small wings, low G speed, or just Mach 1.6 inferior instantaneous and sustained turn rates will hamper its ability within visual range engagement? So every time someone asks me what is the better plane, what is the better aircraft, what better, I always say that the best one is the one with the best pilot, the most trained, the most experienced one, and the most aggressive, that has the best support and is operating in the best environment. This includes the logistics back at the base, but also the force multipliers like OWACS, electronic support measures, and things like that. So, yeah, these questions, I mean, they always have the underlying assumption that you have a one-on-one fight within visual range between aircrafts. It is something that is going to happen, but is not going to happen as if it was a sport pitch. It's going to happen with asymmetries, in any case. And for those asymmetries, we can't account. Whoever is capable of using and exploiting those asymmetries in the best way will win. Emil is asking, in your opinion, will electronic warfare be a serious factor in future warfare? Of course it will be. And it is also the big unknown that forces us to make basically just hypotheses, assumptions, speculations, and so on, because electronic warfare is probably the best kept secret in all the militaries, and so we don't know when the day where there will be a proper interaction between two different equipment, two different doctrines in electronic warfare, what is going to happen. And we don't know the level of adaptability that these systems do have. So, yes, it will be extremely important. It will be extremely important, and it is an unknown. Some random person on the internet, creative names, is asking, why do jet nozzles on fighters expand and contract? Why don't they keep them fixed like on airliner? And why do some look so different from others, such as the F-15 and the F-18? So nozzles, in general propulsion, would deserve again a lot of discussions. So the reason why combat planes use variable nozzles is because they fly in different flight conditions. Civilian aircrafts, airliners, are optimized basically from one flight condition, cruise, which you pretty much know. So adding something that would improve the capability at in other flight condition is probably not worth it. Also, it's not just the money, also every piece of equipment that you add on a plane requires A, power, electrical, hydraulic, pneumatic power, whatever. B, its weight. And every gram that you add in the to the aircraft structure is a gram less than you can add to the payload. So that's basically the reason. Then the physics, because they expand and contract, is a bit complicated. Cannot be addressed in an answer like this. It has to do with the fact that the speed of the jet should be maybe subsonic or go supersonic and this kind of things. So DC is asking, can you provide a comparative analysis with graphic data for the situational awareness of the following aircraft: F-16 Rafale, written Rafale, MiG-29 Su-30 MK China, Su-30 MKI, F-17, Tejas, Mirage 2000, the current ones with India, MiG-21 bis UP, and J-20, the Chinese stealth plane. So, apart from the fact that it could be a bit more asking a bit more, could be asking a bit more polite way, is this is unfortunately an example of many of the requests that I receive from the Indian viewers that want to go in extreme details about Indian aeronautics. It's not that I am averse. The point is that there is also other stuff in the world. So if I should get into these details just for the Indian stuff, I could dedicate 3 months of the channel to these things. And then everything else would be uninterested. So it's something which is definitely not viable. This said, they're all very different. And I suspect that the question is, again, aimed to understand which one is the best. And I have already answered to this. Always this is asking, can the Rafale which India has purchased have a data link with other Indian fighters? What I mean, can the situational awareness of the Rafale, which is data linked to other fighters in their combat mission, make the other non-Rafale fighters' situational awareness better? I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that some of them share the link 16, but that will be it. So no, it's not F-35 level. The Rafales themselves are pretty much almost F-35 level, but the data exchange probably is not. And then he's saying, please add country-specific payment option. For example, in India, the payment option can be e-wallet. I don't know. Let me know, maybe just in the comments or just in the chat if this is something that you're interested. If there's a lot of people who are interested, we can probably try doing that. Okay, and this is the most dreaded question. Dubchi is asking, which aircraft do you think Canada should choose, and which do you think they will choose? Which is your favorite? Thanks. So I don't know which they should choose. I think that any option that is favorable to the domestic Indian industry should be the preferred one. This means that would be the Gripen, because Saab has declared the availability of building an entire factory in Canada and transfer technology. So that would be pretty much advantages for the Canadians. What I believe is going to happen is that they will buy the F-35. This won't be a bad choice, huh? Won't be a bad choice. There's also the possibility that they will kick the can farther down the road, and they won't choose till they remain with just a handful of F-18 operational. That is definitely possible. If there is no clear and present danger in some areas, it's also possible that there will be no choice. Ricky is asking, and this is a good question. So, I am interested to know more about the Augusta Western burp design, why it is so efficient in high-speed flight and why it is not suitable for type of helicopter. For example, the EH-101 Merlin and the AW-159 Lynx has it, but the NH-90 and the AW-139 does not. So for those who don't know, burp is a particular, I know it sounds bad, but it's BERP actually. It's a type of design of the tip of the wings of the, not the wings, the tip of the blades of the helicopter blades. That is quite effective in reducing some of the problem that the rotors have. The rotors are not propellers. The rotors are not wings. The rotors are something completely different and tremendously complicated. This is, you will recognize a BERP helicopter because it has some sort of plates at the end of the blade. So the good thing is that aerodynamically they are they're very, very clever, and I mean mitigate some of the problems that rotors have at high speed. But on the flip side, they pose a lot of aeroelastic problems, because if the blade is shaped like this, the flexion and torsion axis of the blade tend to move a little bit. It's easy to excite vibration. So there's quite a lot of complexity. Then knowing exactly it was chosen for one and not for the other, I don't know, this is probably a design, something we should be asking directly to the designer. But yes, it's quite interesting. Again, this is a good subject for a video. Udit Kumar, can you please do a forward swept wing aircraft? I hope that you don't mean build one, because in that case, I'm sorry, I can't. But if you mean covering and discussing, yes, I could. And if there is a lot of interest, we can do that. But I don't have any particular fascination for this kind of aircraft. They just don't work. Aeroelastically, they are terrible. They look very cool. They may have some advantages in terms of internal space, stability, and so on, but from an aeroelastic point of view, are terrible. They're not going to work until we find something that is going to be so much more stiff than the stiffest stuff that we have. So, or we don't know, potentially someone could come up with some sort of active damping of aeroelastic vibration. But I mean, it's also complicated. So, but again, if there is a lot of interest, if I receive a lot of requests like this, yes, we could speak about this. So King Robert Barra asking a question which is terribly long, but in practice means that it is saying there are news that the Rafale Spectra suite has active radar cancellation technology. Is it true? Why is not more diffuse? Is it doable? Okay, so if it's true, I don't know. I suspect they tried something. How well it is working, that's the key point. In the sense that, so the principle is the same. When the principle is, say, well known, but I mean, you have an impinging electromagnetic wave that will be reflected. But if you could emit an electromagnetic wave of the same frequency, but 180 degrees in phase, the reflection and this emitted wave will interfere and they will cancel each other, so pretty much canceling the radar return. This is easier said than done, because what you need to cancel is not the emitted radiation, it is the aircraft reflection. The aircraft reflection varies enormously depending on the aspect. So the computer that I assume should be calculating what is the exact emission that needs to be sent back, and we'll need to know which is the exact reflection that is being emitted by the plane. If you remember, in the non-cooperative target recognition video, we also discussed how there are micromodulation of the radar return from the rotating and vibrating part. So you should actually be able to do a full cancellation. You should be able to reproduce those. And this is terribly complicated. Now, maybe you don't need to cancel out completely the reflection. It's okay to even to reduce heavily try to reduce quite heavily the reflection, and in this case you may not need to send out the same exact same signal that you're reflecting. You can tolerate phase differences. I gave a quick look at the literature. They say that up to 60 degrees of phase angle, it's sort of okay. It seems reasonable. The point is that, yeah, so, but still, even if you accept to not send out a perfect copy of your reflection, you need to be extremely quick. You need to be extremely quick, because the computers need to assess what is received and send out the cancelling signal in really nanoseconds. An X-band radar with wavelength of this size is extremely quick. You should actually you should be capable of start emitting in the moment you are first hit by the frequency. That's terribly complicated. Vince is asking, is there any way to get a warning if you're being targeted by an infrared search and track and such? The answer is no. Zero, zilch, nil. It's totally passive. Some infrared search and track have a laser to calculate the distance. So if you have a laser warning receiver, and if the plane using the infrared search and track is using a laser for the distance, then you may get some notice. You can be notified. but otherwise it's perfectly passive. It's the perfect murder. Jean Dupont is asking, can an emerging country ever design and produce a decent fighter jet from scratch without the help of US, France, and Russia? Absolutely yes. And in general, it is a very good thing for the economy doing so. You obviously producing and you won't be producing an F-35, you won't be producing a Su-57, but not even an Eurofighter if it is your first attempt. The first thing that you produce will be a trainer. Probably will be a trainer. Then you will start adding weapons to the trainer. You will start building electronics. Then you build maybe a supersonic trainer or light attack aircraft, and keep going from there. Obviously, the real difficulty is keeping the level of commitment, funding, and interest around the project, because anywhere is a decades-long effort. But absolutely, you can catch up. Watch Israel. Watch what Israel has done. Of course, at the help of the United States, but yeah, that's demonstrated you can be at the very top of the technology. They demonstrated they can be at the very top of the technology with their own indigenous production, and developing with relatively little help. Chaitanya is asking, sir, could you please make a video on Tejas about forces and moments acting on the aircraft, and also about the control surfaces of the Tejas wings, either on other high-lift devices? Okay, I'm sorry, guys. This is another one of those questions that requires something which is so incredibly detailed and only of interest for the Indians. This said, a video about dynamic loads and control surfaces could be something that will come in the future, but not just for the Tejas, for everything. Acciaio Temprato, which is probably one of my, it's probably in Italian, so some nationality is mine, is asking, could you explain in detail the stability versus relaxed artificial stability in terms of roll, pitch, and yaw for vertical empennage configuration and double vertical canted stabilizer? Thank you. So from the point of view of stability, the geometry that you choose for the tail is not particularly relevant. I mean, the concepts behind are the same. The difference between a classic stable aircraft and one with relaxed or an artificial stability is that on a conventional aircraft, if the pilot leaves the stick and the pedals, if the plane is trimmed, it will keep flying straight. On an artificial stability plane, if the pilot does the same, the plane won't keep going straight, but will actually diverge and will end up into probably something not particularly pleasurable. And so the artificial stability behind the back of the pilot, a flight computer makes all the corrections required to keep the aircraft stable, so the pilot can really concentrate on flying the plane without thinking of keeping it straight. Hikotai is asking, do you think we will see a stealth and internet counter that will bring us back to the glory days of fighter jets? Do you believe that this trend of less maneuverable aircraft that are technology superior is here to stay? Sorry, it is here to stay. But I wouldn't bet that the that they're going to be really less maneuverable. I mean, they may be slower, yes. Less maneuverable? Yeah, we can discuss about that. So, Big Burglar is asking, do you think an F-35A with wings the same size as the F-35C would be a plus? I suppose that there is a reason why they have chosen these two different wings. And I mean, I suppose that the optimum in terms of design for whatever was the design goal is the F-35. Is the F-35A. The F-35C probably has a larger wing because to land on the aircraft, it needs to fly slower. So everything else equal, the wing surface needs to be larger. So probably no. Alex is asking a quite complicated question about the way the turbine blades are structurally work, and they're structurally attached to the spool. But it's not cannot be addressed in quite quickly. And yeah, I mean, you are pretty much not on the right track about this. Satyat Lala is asking, which is the best BVR missile out of the Meteor, AMRAAM-D, and R-77M? Given that the Meteor is an air-breathing design, so it has a substantial advantage on everybody else. Again, to a lesser extent, the correct question is the one in the hands of the most expert pilot and the best trained pilot with the best support overall. Satyat again is asking, what is your opinion on the upcoming India stealth fighter, the Amca? Okay, if you ask me a general opinion, I believe it is a good. India is right in trying to develop the technology in house. As I said before, it is a great boost for the economy of a country trying to develop this kind of high, let's say, high technology projects, space and in this kind military aircraft. And finally, Shiva is asking me to make aerodynamic lectures. Well, if you're interested, I can wear a suit, a tie, bring a blackboard in here, and do what I was taught at university again. If you're interested, let me know. But let me know. I mean, if you're interested in some theory, I'm perfectly happy to cover it. Okay, and this was it. These were the questions that we've seen. As you've seen, many of them were really interesting. Some others were pretty much fall into this, say, of intellectual trap of saying which one is best, which means very little, to be honest. But yeah, I'm really happy overall. I'm really happy. And now, since let's say we have 43 minutes into the live stream, took a bit longer. Well, we can stay probably 10 minutes more than the hour. So just please post questions in the chat, and I will try to answer if I can. There's about 100 people in the chat, so I can't answer everyone, but I will do my best to choose the stuff that may be more interesting for other people. So let's see. Christoph, will you make more videos about Cold War and Eastern aircraft? Eastern aircraft, definitely. Cold War, I don't know. Technically, normally when I cover story, there's story. When I cover historical stuff, historical planes, there is less interest. So I'm not sure. And yes, I've seen you telling me that we can make the Discord better. No, definitely. This stage is pretty much experimental. Do you think that missiles and radar will get so advanced that it will render planes obsolete? No. Maybe 100 years from now, I can see artificial intelligence making the pilot obsolete. But the point is, you still need to have pretty much something the size of a plane, the shape of a plane, to do what a plane currently does. So that's what I'm seeing. Will air-to-air missiles be obsolete when the sixth generation hypersonic jets emerge? Who told you that the sixth generation is going to be hypersonic? Flying above Mach 2.5 is a big problem for a plane. It's much easier for a weapon that anyway has a useful life of minutes. For a plane that must, say, bring the pilot home is much more complicated. So they won't be very quick. The sixth generation won't be very quick. There are other more sophisticated technologies. Sorry, I don't know about the project Horizon 3. I don't know. Sorry. And aeronautic versions of Engineering Explained. Yes, Engineering Explained has 1 million subscribers. They do very professional stuff and they're well established. I really love them. I am just a guy in my office trying to do something useful to some other for other people that I happen to like as well. What amount of year is required typically between the first flight of a new aircraft and the introduction into an army squadron? I suppose you're armies sometimes have fixed wing aircraft, but anyway, so no, now pretty much in the last 40 years, the average time to develop a new aircraft has been around 20 years, with the first flight around the year 10, 12. Not because it couldn't be done faster, but because there was no urgency. In the sense the Cold War sort of ended, and there's always been a lot of political and economical squabbles. Then in emergency, it could be reduced, but it could be by no means at the same level of the Second World War, where in 6 months you could go, or 1 year you could go from the drawing table to the first production aircraft being delivered to the units. No way. We're probably talking, it can be probably done in 7, 8 years from scratch, but that's it. Since you mentioned the office, what is your current day job? So the stuff that you see here is my new house. I moved in March pretty much, and this is the office that I'm using because pandemic, I'm working from home and I will keep working from home even when all of this will be over. No, we will never, I don't believe we will ever get back to 5 days a week in the office. Is not even convenient probably for the companies itself. But apart from that, my main career has always been in IT. I don't want to give you too many details, but yes, I work mostly in IT, and I'm still working in IT, albeit in a quite senior role. The the I had, while working in IT as a customer, some in companies in the aircraft and defense industry. But myself, I was IT. Could you cover the topic of boost phase missile intercept systems using such aircraft like the F-35, Su-57, also F-16 is known to have this capability? So I believe you are referring to the fact of intercepting, for example, a ballistic missile during the ascent stage while the engine is on, and honestly, I don't know what to say, in the sense that there are no, as far as I know, there are a lot of studies, a lot of tests, no practical applications. So it's difficult to say. So would you ever do a video on the J10, aka the last of the Deltas, the one that's missing on the channel? Nope. Or the Eurofighter is missing too. Yes, could be something worth doing, because J10 is still an important asset in the Chinese inventories. It also has a little bit of Italian heritage. So yeah, it could be. It's a good subject for a video. I will take notice. Congrats on your new house. Thank you. Have you ever played DCS World? Nope, but I like watching it. I like the Grim Reapers because the cup is really interesting. It's really, interesting, entertaining, let's say. And I like the Growling Sidewinder because the gentleman, so the scenarios are not realistic, but the tactics that are used in air combat are a pretty good representation on how it works in reality. Probably in reality they could be a bit more aggressive and a bit more creative, but yeah, still it's very interesting. As I said, I'm sorry, I don't know about the Horizon 3 project, so I cannot be of help. Will quantum computing ever have any aeronautical application? Yes, of course. Like any kind of computing technology, they tend to be extremely fast. They tend to be they're still not mature, and technology is still not mature for operations, but definitely it is something when it will be mature will be considered. Are you planning a video on the UAP report? No. Seriously, no. Not okay. I am not because I am skeptic or anything. I am puzzled as the next guy. But no, it's definitely not the thing. It's definitely not the thing for this channel. Do you think the SR-72 is actually being developed, or it is just a rumor and the aircraft is not practical? It's probably, if it is being developed, it's probably a drone. No point at this stage making a piloted aircraft for that mission. How did the Yugoslavians shot down the F-117 in 1999? The stealth has flaws, or they were lucky? No, they were very clever, and yes, stealth has flaws. The Western planners actually gave their contribution. They could have done better in that specific occasion, but no, there was a clever use of a very old system. I've seen an interesting video that covers very well the subject. I can't remember off the top of my head. If I find it, I will put it into the description of this video or in a pinned comment. Was the J-10 inspired by the Israeli Lavi jet fighter? Some YouTube channels claim that. Is it true? No flipping idea. But what is the most likely explanation is that the world is full of clever people that tend to have similar ideas pretty much at the same time. So there is the good probability that it was a parallel development, was a parallel development based on the same principles. Then, of course, at some point, someone had the original idea that maybe inspired someone else, but often there is genuinely different people find the same solution. No magnetohydrodynamic shenanigans. No, I promise you I won't do any. The YAS-39CD have electronic scan array radar and infrared track sensor. Yes, they have the IRST, but the radar is not an AESA radar. How susceptible are modern fighters to an EMP attack? Good question. I suppose it depends on the magnitude of the electric and the magnetic field. I believe that they can probably survive if they're not too close, while at the same distance, all the civilian electronic will be fried and refried. How do you think small drone technology will evolve, taking up more roles or replacing current ammunition as example? No, they won't replace the current, let's say, type or the current class of guided weapons. They will still exist, but small drones will be important for ground operation. Already many forces give a reconnaissance drone at platoon or even team squad level, so this is going to become more and more common when small drones will be capable of actually transporting a meaningful offensive load. They will become something like the machine gun that is assigned to the platoon, and they will become part of the firepower and the capabilities of small infantry units. What's your option of story plan of outfitting a B-1 bomber as a gunship? Oh, come on, please. Come on, please. Yes, it has the payload. That would be extremely cool. probably for War Thunder or for Warhammer 40,000. In real life, it doesn't really make sense. Would you say there much point to hypersonic flight with planes, since we had Mach 2 jets for decades and there has never been combat recorded above Mach 1.6? No, in fact, I don't think that planes will ever fly. The aircraft will or fighter will ever be hypersonic, at least not in the foreseeable future. Weapons will be hypersonic, but not the planes. Hello, sir. Again, okay. Classic question. Hello, sir. Do you think the Tejas, along with Amca and TEDF, the right way forward for Indian Air Force? Apart from the fact that TEDF should be the Navy, I believe, or should be only the Navy, I believe. Yes, of course, I said domestic development is extremely important for a country. Extremely important for the development of the industry of a country. I should probably do a video on the economics of the aircraft production and these make or buy options. But just add in the chat. Let me know if you would be interested about that. It's probably going to be a little bit controversial because there's quite a lot of misunderstandings around this area, and I also have some political references. So yes, it is. But let me know if you're interested. We can do that. So Ryan Cooper is asking a question that I don't really understand. Okay, but again, about stealth, if it is possible to use the stealth and so on. So stealth is a set of technologies to reduce but not eliminate the possibility that a plane can be spotted on radar. So a plane can be more or less stealth than another one. And a radar, depending on the power emitted and the frequencies at which it is operating, can definitely spot a stealth aircraft. In the L band, all the stealth aircraft tend to be not much less visible than anything else. Okay, in VHF or UHF band, they are basically perfectly visible. They're not stealth at all. Is it true that even modern fighters have problem to lock on another jet who is flying under 100 meters altitude in look down, shoot down mode? No, definitely not the most recent. In the sense, when digital filters started being implemented, this problem went away. The weapon itself may have problems because it may the flight profile of the weapon, flight profile of the missile, need to be such that minimizes the risk of hitting the ground. Do countries okay. Do countries make their own electronics, including chips, for their weapon systems, or do they use foreign components? Nope. They tend to use quite a lot of foreign components. Then there are cases like the United States or the United Kingdom and France, where they do this as a choice because they believe it was more practical, they believe it was safe, they believe it was cheaper. But if they wanted, they could do everything in-house. For some other countries, it is basically just necessary because they don't have yet the technology for using the chips. For example, the Sukhoi 57 that we're talking about in these days, one of the two types of processors is built in Taiwan, which I don't know how much clever it is, but there we are. Said that Russia has the technology to build everything in-house if they wanted. I don't know that if you know, but in Russia do produces chips which are equivalent to a not so modern, say 4 or 5 years old generation of Intel and AMD chips in terms of processors, and I think they go down to 21 nanometers. So that's not incredibly modern, but that's definitely enough for military and aeronautical use. Will we ever see stealthy helicopters, or are they by nature impossible to mask from radar, at least compared with fixed-wing aircraft? Yes, they're much more difficult. The rotor is a powerful reflector, but they do already exist. You can still do the... Do you remember the Comanche, the helicopter, the program that was cancelled, included some stealth elements, and there are some others. The transport helicopter that was used to attack the Bin Laden compound was a stealth helicopter. Obviously, won't be as stealth as an F-35, but this is exactly the kind of example of why stealth is important. It's one of the factors that may help in being effective. It's not the only one, but it is one of the factors. For an helicopter, will always be one of the factors. Can the Su-57 jam the Meteor, for example? I heard that the F-32 could jam an opponent's radar. So how about jamming missiles that have their own radars? Yeah, that's common practice. The point is, how is this effective? And the answer is, basically, we don't know. You can safely assume that Cold War systems are now obsolete and can be easily jammed by anything that is less than 20 years old. But apart from that, I really don't know, because there's literally no material available. You can read books that explain you how it works, and I'm studying electronic warfare in the sense that I would like to do a series of videos about that. And at some point when I will be comfortable that I'm not going to say one idiocy after another, I will do a video. But I mean, there is zero news about what is actually implemented. Zero. So we simply can't say. How do you imagine the Sabre engine works? The prequel seems magic. That's something that I want to study. Keep the question for sometime in the future, and we will discuss that. Okay, what time is it? 8 minutes past 9. Okay, so I believe it's time to... Most educational aerospace channel on YouTube. Keep up with the good work, man. Thank you very much. So, I think it's probably time to close the live stream, even because I definitely would like to have dinner. So, well, as usual, there have been a lot of you guys. We've been about 100 people connecting at every time. lot of really good questions. I really enjoyed answering, and I really enjoyed having a chat with you guys. Thank you very much for the donations. They're incredibly appreciated, particularly in these hard times. And where is Otis? We want to hear Otis. Otis is actually not really interested in live streams because he tend to work he tend to work doing long researches in on the internet. So you just give him a task and he start crunching numbers on the internet, start crunching books, start crunching papers, and it comes up with an answer. So Otis is not interested in the live stream. I have the door closed, but I'm pretty much sure that he's trying to lay the TV in the living room as usual. So okay, given. So one day we will do something particular about Otis, because it's not just it's not just an imaginary sidekick. There's an interesting story behind that. But yeah, no, I'm not revealing the mystery. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. It's always amazing to see so many people being a part of this. I will try to regularize these live stream and make them an appointment, a regular appointment, because I really enjoy doing this. So thank you very much for watching, and have a good time and have a good night. Well, at least if you are in my time zone or ahead. Bye.